Nature has captured the minds of scientists for hundreds of years. From early pioneers such as Charles Darwin to modern-day legends like Jane Goodall, thousands of scientists have made it their life's mission to uncover the secrets of the natural world. But how does one uncover these secrets? Over the centuries, academics have been honing their methods of scientific research, building upon previous knowledge to create ways to effectively and efficiently share their findings with other scientists. This can take many different forms: seminars, symposiums, poster sessions, conventions, all of which help to spread new scientific discoveries. For a scientist to present their findings at one of these gatherings, they could spend years or even decades doing research and compiling data. One of the hardest parts of scientific research can simply be coming up with a question. What makes a good research question? What could be tested? How do you ask a question that is important or could have an impact on people's lives? These are all things that researchers have asked themselves at some point in their career, including the students of the Environmental Instrumentation Lab when presented with their research topic. The process of coming up with a good research question has plagued many aspiring scientists. But there are some solutions that can be used if you hit a block. One of the best ways to come up with a question for ecological research is to simply spend some time observing what you're interested in, whether that be a whole ecosystem or just a single organism. This is exactly what the students of the Environmental Instrumentation Lab did when presented with their topic, that being solar prairies. Taking time to make observations can give invaluable insights on the desired topic, but it's not always as easy as it sounds. To make good observations, you must pay attention to fine details and ask questions about everything. In the case of solar prairies, there were many questions that these students came up with based off of their observations. Some of them were interested in birds and how they would nest on different types of solar panels. Others were interested in pollinators and what prairie plant species they preferred. Another group noticed spider webs around the panels and wondered what assemblages of predator insects they might find in the solar prairie. Beyond these, there were also students observing butterflies and moths, questioning what species they might find, as well as one more group who wanted to know how mammals reacted to the solar prairie. And these were only a few of the questions that the students came up with. There were many more that were not chosen for one reason or another. Once a question has been formulated, it may seem tempting to just grab some equipment and start collecting data. But a good researcher knows better. Before you can start collecting data, it's important to determine how it will be collected. This process can take a long time and a lot of trial and error, but it is essential to any good study. This section of research often takes many forms, from finding previous literature on the subject to testing old and new methods, or building up background knowledge of the subject. By planning out and testing your methods, not only can you streamline data collection so that it takes less time, but it also ensures you are taking good and accurate data that will produce a strong result. Nothing is worse than collecting data for months and then finding that it isn't usable. These students got to experience firsthand the difficulties of this section of research. Not only did they face all of the usual troubles during this phase, such as techniques not working the way they wanted them to, or limitations due to their equipment, but they also had the unique challenge of doing it under a time crunch. They had only a few chances to collect data, which meant pre-planning was even more vital to their success. Once they were done collecting samples from the field, the data collection process was still not over for some. The predator insect group had to spend hours hunched over microscopes sorting out tiny little insects by family. This process can be very tedious and very time-consuming. It is also often the reality of scientific research. This unseen and rarely talked about aspect of research makes up a large percentage of the overall process, But getting it right is vital to the next part, which can be one of the most exciting and satisfying parts. The results section is where it all comes together. All that time spent planning and collecting data can finally be used to try and answer the question that has been burning in the back of your mind. There are thousands of different ways to analyze data, but more often than not, the data will fit into a pre-existing technique that was planned from the start. The final section of a study is the discussion. This is where the results are interpreted and implemented into the broader context of the topic. You'll often find that this section explains the importance or the value of the research, ways it could be used, or why the results did or did not support the hypothesis. The research done by the students of the Environmental Instrumentation Lab could have many implications. The findings from the pollinator group could help inform land managers on what species to plant in new solar farms, and the predator group study can help expand the knowledge of how food webs operate in these unique ecosystems. However, sometimes there isn't a final conclusion. Maybe there wasn't enough time to collect all the samples needed, or maybe the data was just simply inconclusive. This is a common problem in research, and yet another that these students ran into. But this isn't to say that the research was worthless. There can be value in any study, whether it had a clear conclusion or not. It's possible that the study could inspire a whole new question. Or, by using the experience from the first study, a second one can be developed with different methods. Ultimately, all of the students in this lab gained something whether their study had conclusive results or not. They got to experience what it's like to conduct research firsthand and participate in the scientific process. The hands-on learning that they received is invaluable experience that they will undoubtedly use at some point in their career. The world is filled with unknowns that need answered, and generation after generation of scientists have devoted their entire lives to answering them. Over the past few months, this small group of aspiring scientists have gotten to experience firsthand what it's like to tackle these unknowns. Fighting challenge after challenge, they managed to do what takes some years. And it all started with asking a question.